Welcome to Revealed Abundance. We're so happy to have you today because we're going over
the Antichrist.
Woohoo! Sorry.
I'm keeping this in here, so just keep talking.
I'll just get quirkier as the videos go.
Yep. Leaving all of this in.
What's really interesting about the Antichrist is that it only shows up in John's epistle. So in 1 John 1, 1 John 2, and in 2 John, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, Susie, what are those?
So yeah, we're going to go over, there are 4 verses between 1 John and 2 John that say the word Antichrist. Mm-hmm. These are the only areas that the word Antichrist shows up. And we're going to kind of walk through them a little bit, maybe unpack a little bit about what is this Antichrist and why is it important that John talks about it.
Right.
So first we're going to start in 1 John 2, chapter 2, verse 18. Sorry, I'm reading from the Amplified Version, which is always very interesting. Boys, or lads, according is another way to say that. It is the last time, is the last hour, the end of this age. And as you have heard that the Antichrist, he who will oppose Christ in the guise of Christ, is coming, even now many Antichrists have arisen, which confirms our belief that it is the final, the end time. So it shows up again in verse 22, just a little bit further. Who is such a liar as he who denies that Jesus is the Christ or the Messiah? He is the Antichrist, the antagonist of Christ, who habitually denies and refuses to acknowledge the Father and the Son. And then if we turn to chapter 4, verse 3, and every spirit which does not acknowledge and confess that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh, it is not of God. This is the spirit of the Antichrist, of which you heard that it was coming, and now is already in the world. And the very last one, 2 John. There is only one chapter, so chapter 1. Verse 7, that's not right.
Verse what? What do you have?
There is no 17 in John.
Beware of Antichrist.
7.
In 7.
Okay, so in 2 John, there's only one chapter, so chapter 1, verse 7. For many impostors have gone out into the world, men who do not acknowledge or admit the coming of Jesus Christ or the Messiah in bodily form. Such a one is the impostor, the seducer, the deceiver, the false leader, the antagonist of Christ, and the Antichrist.
Yes. All right. So, let's go back to 18. Little children, it is the last hour, and as you have heard that the Antichrist is coming, even now, let's highlight that word now, many Antichrists have come, and by which we know that it is the last hour. What's really interesting that your Bible points out is it doesn't just say last hour, it says the end of the age, which is really kind of neat, but kind of a different topic. But that's something to maybe kind of keep in mind or highlight for a future reference. John, we were just talking about Paul earlier, but John is really coming against this thought of Antichrist, and he just kind of writes a lot about that, in that, you know, there was Gnosticism in his day where they taught that Jesus didn't come in the flesh, but that he had to have been spirit, because they believed that, you know, to be mortal, to have skin and flesh on, was to be inherently evil. So therefore Jesus couldn't have had any bodily form. And so, you know, John is coming against this thought. And so he's really challenging Gnosticism in his time. And he's like, hey, you know, in some other verses that we had just read, he's like, hey, there's teachers among you who want to deceive you, and so they were trying to pull people from Christianity into Gnosticism. And so he was warning people about this particular teaching.
And the reason that this is so important is because we do acknowledge that Jesus came, born of a virgin, died on the cross. All these things that you have to be flesh and blood to do.
Right.
So to deny that he came in flesh as a human, fully God and fully man, is to kind of negate a whole lot of the messianic prophecies and the fulfillment of the covenant, because he had to be fully man to fulfill covenant, to do the things that he needed to do to reconcile us back to God. Right. So and that's ultimately the root of the word Antichrist. Literally means just to be an opponent of Christ. Be not of Christ.
Right.
It's not something that's big and scary and mystical. If you just break it apart, anti is not. Christ is Christ. Not of Christ.
Right.
It's very simple.
Simple. So in our reading here, we don't really find that this is somebody who's coming 2,000 years later, or that there's going to be this big, one world power leader that's named the Antichrist. It's really just John talking about Antichrist as in Gnosticism, or people who are against or who oppose Christ. And so what's really interesting is that in Revelation, there is no reference to the word in the Greek to Antichrist at all in Revelation. There is no word. Antichrist appears 4 times, and it's all in the epistle of John. So I think that that's really interesting and something to at least take note of.
And so this also might clear up a little bit of that question mark that, it says the Antichrist is coming and is already in the world. And I hear a lot of people use that to conjure up fear amongst us now. Like, the Antichrist is already in the world. Well, it was already in the world 2,000 years ago, because it's talking about the spirit of Gnosticism. So there is no fear in the Antichrist, because I believe that, I still believe that the spirit of Antichrist can exist even now, because we have people who might adhere a bit to Gnosticism.
Right.
But it's nothing to be afraid of. It's just bad theology. That's all it really is. And they were trying to lead people astray, which is a problem that needed to be addressed. So John isn't doing this to instill fear in anyone, just warning them, don't be led astray. Don't let these people come in and say that Jesus didn't come in the flesh. Because he did.
That's right. Yeah. So I hope that makes you feel better about what is the Antichrist, what does the Bible say about it, and what kind of was going on in their time. So we just bless you with this video. I hope it clears up some things. Also, we love it when you subscribe, when you like, and when you share. Thank you so much.